So go ahead and find a comfortable seat. If you'd like to sit on a blanket for our practice today, you can feel free to bring one underneath your sits bones and just start to make yourself comfortable. Your comfortable seat might be cross-legged, or you can extend your legs, one or both, or you might kneel. And feel free to prop yourself up on pillow or blanket. Lengthen through your spine, bringing your shoulders above your hips. And allow the crown of your head to just reach gently up toward the ceiling, lengthening your neck. You can soften your gaze toward the floor or let your eyes softly close. Now, I'll invite you today to begin just with a gentle sway through your spine. So letting your weight rock slowly from one sits bone to the other. And allow your spine just to follow that movement. You can think of your head, your skull, as an extension of your spine. So let your head and your neck be involved. And we'll start really slow, just with some small movement today. As you're rocking side to side, draw your attention just lightly to your breath. Finding a deeper breath, a longer exhale. And as you're swaying side to side, your movements might get a little bit bigger. You might let your spine start to move more like a snake or a reed blowing in the wind from side to side, just letting your head follow your spine in each direction. And gently begin to make your way back to that center line. Find length through your spine, letting your shoulders soften down your back and your heart lift toward your chin. Using an inhale, begin to reach your arms out and up. As you exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, sweep your arms out and up. This time, keep them lifted, biceps beside your ears. Draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Begin to lift your gaze any amount toward the ceiling. Find a deeper breath here, letting your lowest ribs come in toward your body. So engaging your upper abdomen slightly. Letting your heart lift. Using your next inhale, let your palms join above you. And then exhale, tracing the midline. Bringing your hands to heart center, let your thumbs rest against your sternum and your gaze lower or let your eyes close. Now with your thumbs resting on the center of your chest, feel for the rise and fall of your sternum as you breathe. Just notice that gentle movement. Starting to flutter your eyelids open if your eyes are closed. Inhale, sweep both your arms out and up again. This time, let's bring the right hand down and find a side bend, up and over. Left hand reaching up, spinning your left pinky toward the floor. Let your jaw relax and gently move your gaze from the floor to the ceiling. Really slow, breathing as you swivel your neck. Try not to force your head to move past that first place of tension in your neck. So we're not pushing or forcing any movement in our necks. You're just going until you feel like that's enough to each side. Move your gaze forward or lift your gaze and use your inhale to begin to reach right hand up to meet your left hand. Let's exhale to the other side. Left hand comes down, reach right arm up and over, spinning pinky down toward the floor. Keep your right sits bone pressing down into your blanket or your mat. Again, soften your jaw and find any range of movement through your head and neck. Just letting your gaze move down and then up. Using your next inhale, lift left hand to meet right hand. Exhale, trace the midline. Let your hands relax onto your thighs or your knees. Your shoulders can soften away from your ears. Lower your chin to your chest. And in your own time and at your own pace, begin to sweep your head side to side. So keep your jaw relaxed and let this movement be slow so you can start to feel into the sensations along the back of your neck, your shoulders. Don't go all the way around in a circle, but you can start to lift your chin as you make your way over to each side. So you can get that nice stretch and opening on the front of your neck and your throat. Notice your breath. And if you hang out, if you find any place in your neck that feels a little stuck or tighter than the other areas, then you might pause in that spot and just find a few breaths, inviting a softening. The next time your left ear comes toward your left shoulder, let's hang out there for a few breaths, and you have an option to bring your right fingertips onto the floor to help lengthen the side of your neck, the upper part of your scapula, your shoulder, or not your scapula, your trapezius. Finding some breaths. Bring your right hand back to your leg. Sweep your chin slowly to your chest. And then draw your right ear up toward your right shoulder. And hang out there. Option to extend left fingertips, tenting them beside you. Bring your left hand to your thigh. Let your chin come down to your chest. Let your shoulders relax, your head hang heavy. And if you want to, you can bring your hands behind you, interlace your fingers. Draw your shoulder blades together on your back and begin straightening your arms toward the floor or the wall behind you. So you do have the option to lift your hands little by little here. And that does make the stretch a bit deeper. So just take your time. Breathing full breaths into the center of your chest, into your back. With your next exhale, start to float your hands or your fist back down toward the floor, to your low back. Relax your shoulders and then release your hands. Let's make fists, circle your wrists. You might bring your gaze back up to neutral, finding that long spine. And circle in the other direction. And release your hands back to your thighs. We'll find one more stretch in seated, and if you're tired of sitting cross-legged, you can explore switching which leg is in front, giving that other hip and knee a try to be on the inside or outside, or you can feel free to just extend your legs. So we'll move through some twists here using an inhale, reach your arms out and up. As you exhale, twist upper body to your right. Bring your fingertips down in front of and behind your lap. We'll do a few more with the breath. So inhales, bring you back to center, lengthen your spine. And exhale, twist gently to the other side. Let your gaze move to your left. Inhale, sweep arms up, come back to neutral. Exhale, other side. Inhale, arms lift, come to center. Exhale, final twist. Use your inhale to sweep arms up. Exhale, hands down through center and transition to table pose. So you might just roll over your knees, come to table, or transition however makes sense for you. If you have yoga blocks that you like to use in your practice, you can just bring them up to the front of your mat. And if you're on a hard floor, then feel free to have a towel or blanket to pad your knees, just laying gently across your mat. Come to our table pose, stacking shoulders above your wrists and your hips above your knees. Start by really grounding down through your hands here, palms, fingertips, the pads of your fingers, as if you could suction your hands to your mat. So try not to have too much or any space coming underneath your hands. Rooting down with your palms, spin the eyes of your elbows, the front of your elbows forward. And draw your lowest ribs in, finding some core engagement. As you inhale, shift weight to your right hand, start to reach your left hand up toward the ceiling. So opening your heart toward the left wall. And find a couple rounds of breath here. Press the back of your head back, lengthening your spine. Always thinking of your head just as an extension of your spine in yoga. Use your next exhale to float your left hand down, wrist under your shoulder. Let's go to the other side. Shift weight to your left hand. Right arm reaches up. Really press down into your left palm to rise up out of your shoulder joint, pressing the floor away from you. As you exhale, float your right hand back down to the floor. Let's start to find some hip circles here. So moving in either direction, just press your hips to the side, back toward your heels, and draw them up the other side and through center. Again, you might choose small circles or very large circles. I invite you just to make the practice your own as always. Start to find circles the other direction. Noticing if you're still breathing here, can you lengthen your breath? Perhaps linking your breath up with your movement in some way. And start to make your way back to neutral table pose. We'll find just 2 rounds of cat-cow today, but we'll hang out in each pose for a few breaths. So lowering your belly, lift your gaze and draw your shoulders back. Let your tailbone reach up toward the ceiling any amount. Find another breath here as you reach your heart forward. Your gaze can be lifted. Using an exhale, engage your abdomen. Draw your navel in and then start to round your back. Curl your tailbone under, tuck your chin, and try to draw your belly and your chest more into your body. Let's inhale, start to come back into cow pose, lifting your gaze, your tailbone, and letting your belly release down. Keep thinking about your shoulders, drawing back. And one more cat pose, rounding your back, tuck your belly in. And then start to find your way back to a neutral tabletop. From here, bring your right palm and plant it beneath your face, so in the center of your mat. Then inhale, your left hand reaches up. So we're gonna do a threaded needle, but we'll move into it with a little flow first. Using an exhale, start to reach your left arm under your right. You'll have to bend into your right elbow and your upper body will twist. We're gonna just hover the left arm above the floor as we reach left fingertips over to the right wall. Inhale, push into your rooted hand, lift your left hand back to the ceiling. And again, exhale, thread your arm under and hover it above the floor. Inhale, sweep your arm up. Exhale, thread and hover. Draw your belly in, feel that twist in your upper body. Last round, inhale, reaching up. And as you exhale, let's thread the needle all the way, reaching that hand under and then lowering down onto your shoulder and the left side of your head. You might walk that right hand forward, coming up onto tented fingertips. So you're gazing under your right arm. Have a little tuck of your chin here to protect your neck. Start to walk your right hand back under your shoulder. And then use an inhale, push into your right hand. Start to lift your left hand back up toward the ceiling. Exhale, table pose. You might find a cat-cow here. Let your hips just sway a little side to side, any kind of organic movement that you'd like. And coming back to table pose, we'll go to the other side. So your left palm comes to the middle of your mat. And inhale, your right hand reaches up, opening your chest to the right. As you exhale, we'll thread and hover the right arm above the floor. So you have to bend your left elbow as you reach your right arm underneath your left. Continue with your breath. Inhale, sweeping up. Exhale, thread and hover. Inhale, sweep up. Exhale, thread. Last one, inhale, reach it up. Exhale, thread it through, and let's lower down onto shoulder and the side of your head. Come up on your left fingertips, walk them forward toward the front of your mat. So you're gazing under your left armpit or upper arm. Slight tuck of your chin, being mindful that your neck is not getting crushed here. Most of your weight should be on your shoulder. And you can always bring a block or a pillow underneath you if this pose feels awkward. Bring your left hand and plant it under your shoulder, or under your elbow, I should say. Then inhale as you push back up. Sweep your right hand toward the ceiling. Exhale, right hand plants back down. From here, let's find a child's pose with wide knees. Walk your knees out toward the edges of your mat. Bring your big toes together. And start to rock your hips back toward your heels. They might hover up in the air. You might bring a blanket underneath your hips, between your thighs and your calves. Or your hips might settle further down toward your heels. Lengthen the sides of your body by walking your hands as far forward as you can, and then invite your forehead down onto a block or your mat. Invite your whole body to begin to relax here, letting go of some effort for several rounds of breath. Let your jaw relax, and you can explore rocking your forehead side to side on your mat or block, releasing tension from your face. Use an inhale to lift your gaze and make your way back up onto your hands and knees. And from here, we're going to lower down onto our bellies. You can walk your knees back a little bit, strengthen up through your core, bend your elbows, and just let your belly, your chest come down. Walk your elbows forward until your elbows land below your shoulders, or maybe slightly wider than your shoulders. Forearms parallel, palms planted. First, let your head and your chest relax down so you can try to draw your shoulders more onto your back, spreading out across the front of your chest, your collarbones. Then press into your elbows, start to lift your gaze, finding a gentle arch in your upper spine. Shoulder blades are squeezing together on your back. Notice if your gaze is up to the ceiling here and the back of your neck is wrinkled up. And if so, try to let the crown of your head extend toward the ceiling instead, so that you're really lengthening your neck instead of crunching into the back of your neck. Use your next exhale to lower and release. Bring one cheek down and let your arms come down beside you. You can rest one cheek on the floor, let your shoulders slump forward. Still letting your upper body rest. Start to press the top of your feet into the floor, engaging your legs. Feel your thighs strengthen up, pointing your toes, and press those feet down into the floor. Then Lift your gaze or gaze down toward the center of your mat. And using an inhale, you can flip your palms over and start to let your heart lift. So we're finding a half locust pose, just floating the upper body, reaching the fingertips toward the wall behind you, and your heart reaching forward. If you'd like to play with lifting one leg at a time, or maybe both legs here, you can do so now. We'll be here for 5 more long breaths. 4, 3, 2, 1. Gently let yourself release. Back of your hands and the other cheek come down. Lying in stillness, or let your hips rock side to side, loosening up through your low back. All right, we'll come into one more variation on locust, and you can do what we just did, keeping your legs down, but legs really strong. Or you can start to lift upper body and legs, and you have the option here to bring your hands together behind you again, interlace your fingers, and then let your shoulder blades come together as you press your fist toward the wall behind you. Gaze down the line of your nose, keeping your neck long. Use your inner thigh strength to maybe float your legs up another half an inch. As you exhale, release gently. Bend your elbows and let's bring the arms forward. Stack your hands on top of each other. Rest your forehead on the back of your hands. Bend your knees. Let your heels windshield wiper from side to side. Let your legs relax down. Feel free to stay here for another few breaths, or you might bring a cheek down if that's more comfortable for you. Taking your time, start to make your way back into a table pose. Just coming back to hands and knees. And feel free to stay here in table pose or tuck your toes under and find downward dog, letting your hips lift up and back. Lengthen through your spine, pressing the floor away from you with your palms. Once you find that length in your back body, start to extend, press your heels down toward the floor. So your belly's drawing in, your low ribs are drawing in. Broaden across your shoulders. Once again here, the eyes or the fronts of your elbows are working toward the front of the room. So we're externally rotating through the upper arms. From wherever you are, either table or down dog, we'll start to make our way up to the front of our mats. And we're gonna meet there in a flat back. So however makes sense for you, come to the front and bring your feet about hips width distance, bending into your knees, sliding hands up to your shins. Let's draw the shoulders back, reach the crown of your head forward. Create length in your spine here. Let's find one more inhale. And then use your exhale to fold forward. And you can choose your favorite forward fold. We'll be here for about 10 breaths today. I want to invite you to try to even out the weight across your feet. So trusting your feet to hold you if you shift just a little bit of your weight more into the balls of your feet. You can explore gentle rocking forward and back here just to play with your balance a little bit, play with your center of gravity. Your hands can be on the floor or blocks or pillows. Let your head nod here a few times. All the muscles of your face relax and shake your head out. Use your next inhale to come up to a flat back again. Exhaling here, bring your hands onto your hips. Really feel your feet on the floor under you as you use your next inhale to rise to standing with a flat back. So standing tall at the front of your mat, you can let your arms release down beside you, spinning your palms forward. And just notice how you've come to standing. Are you equally weighted across your feet? Can you sense your tailbone just dropping straight down, kind of rooting your pelvis, rooting your hips down toward the earth? And long, slow breaths, expanding your heart space. Let's bring hands onto your hips and step your feet out a little wider, perhaps to the edges of your mat. From here, start to reach your right arm up toward the ceiling. Using an exhale, find your side bend. At first, I'll invite you to try to keep your weight equal across both your feet. So feel your right foot rooting down into the floor as you reach up and out of your right foot. Notice where your gaze is, and you can have your gaze land anywhere, but just keep your head as an extension of your spine. So the crown of your head is reaching in the same direction as your fingertips. Let's find one more inhale, reaching. Using your exhale, release. Let's come back to mountain pose. You can keep your feet where they are. Just let both arms relax. Take a longer, fuller breath here, sensing into that opening, if you notice any, on your right side. Let's go to the other side. So right hand to your hip, inhale your left arm. As you exhale, reach up and over. And really root down with your left foot. Feel your left leg strengthen up. So you're rooting down with your foot as you're reaching up and out with your fingertips. Use one more inhale to stretch. And your exhale to release, coming back to mountain pose. A long breath in and out. And from here, we will find a gentle back bend. But I want to make a note first that when we go into a standing back bend, it's much more about lifting your heart up and creating length in your spine than about arching back. Because if we just arch back, what we do is we just crunch into all of our vertebrae, and they can get really crunched and not feel very good. We can sink into our low back. So as we move into this back bend, I invite you to focus on lifting your heart away from your hips instead of just rocking your upper body back. So you can find a few options with your hands. I'll just turn sideways so you can see. You can have your hands on your low back, kind of supporting the back of your hips with your fingertips pointing down. Make sure your legs are really strong here. Or you can, if it's available, flip your hands over, bring the top of your fingertips or your fingertips to point up as your palms support your low back and the back of your hips. So whichever one feels more available, just going to keep your hands there to offer support to your low back and to remind you not to just crunch into your low back, but to keep it long. And strengthen your thighs, feel your kneecaps lift. And gently start to let your heart reach up toward the ceiling as your shoulders and elbows draw back. Just continue to breathe here, and you can keep lifting your heart as you're gently arching back, pressing into your low back to keep it long. Back bend should be mostly in the middle and upper back, not so much in the low back. Full breaths. If you can't breathe deeply, then you might be a little too far into your back bend. So strengthen your legs, feel yourself come out of it a little bit. Using an inhale, press into your feet and just come back up to a neutral spine. Exhaling there, bring your hands back onto your hips. And heel toe your feet back into hips width distance apart. So we just did an arch in the back, and before we just fold forward and do a big opposite movement in our spine, I'm going to offer a chair pose because that helps to lengthen your low back. So you can bring your hands to your hips. Let your tailbone start to curl under. So rounding your low back, tucking your tail, and from there, rock your weight back into your heels and let your hips sink down. And hands can stay on your hips. You want to keep your spine long here. If you do want to build some more heat, you can find traditional chair pose, letting the arms lift, your heart lift as your hips and tail sink down. And you want to make sure you can see your toes here. So your knees are behind your toes. Let's take another long inhale. As you exhale, belly to thighs, fold forward. Keep as much of a bend in your knees as you want here to be comfortable in your back. Inhale, flat back, lift and lengthen. Exhale, fold forward. We'll find a low lunge with the left foot at the front of your mat. So walking your right foot back, let your right knee lower down. You can keep your back toes tucked under or you can untuck them. It's much more about just personal preference there. Make sure your left knee is stacking above your left ankle. And then when you're ready, you can come up, bringing your hands to rest on the front thigh. So just hang out here for a little while so you can let your body adjust to this pose. Press down firmly with the ball of your left foot. I'm going to offer a twist today from here, but first engage your belly. So you're engaging the core, and then start to bring your arms out to a T from your shoulders. So just straight out to the sides. And we'll start to twist the upper body to the left. So your right hand reaches forward as your left hand reaches back. If you need a little more stability here, you can bring your right hand down onto your right thigh. You can also explore that to offer you more leverage in your twist, helping your shoulders and your spine swivel. Using your next exhale, and start to unwind and just bring your hands back down onto the floor. Fingertips to the floor or hands onto blocks. Tuck your back toes under, fire up your back leg and lift your knee. So you're more in that runner's lunge, still engaging your core, gaze forward. Shift weight more onto your front foot and take one or more steps to bring your back foot up to the front of your mat. Fold over both legs, just let it all go for a few breaths here. Feel free to find a ragdoll and sway side to side, or just let your upper body rest. All right, as you're ready, step your left foot to the back of your mat and bring your left knee down. So we're moving to our lunge on the right side. Right knee stacking above your ankle. Pressing down with your right big toe and the ball of your right foot. Let's come up, pressing hands down onto your thigh. So if you feel a little wobbly here, it can help to really fix your gaze at a single point of focus. Finding something on your wall in front of you, just letting your gaze soften at that thing. Strengthen through your core for balance. Let your arms reach out from your shoulders. And then we'll twist to the right this time. So the right arm reaches back as your left arm reaches forward. Option to keep your arms extended or bring your left hand down outside your right thigh. Using an exhale, begin to unwind yourself, hands to blocks or fingertips to the floor, framing your front foot. Tuck your back toes under, lift your knee, runner's lunge, gaze forward, and shifting weight onto your front foot, take one or more steps up to the front of your mat and fold forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold over your legs. Planting your palms, step your way back into a plank pose. So you can be here at the top of a push-up, or you can bring your knees down for a different variation, keeping your belly strong. Wherever you are, we're just firing up our muscles in our arms, legs, and core. 4 breaths. On your 4th exhale, bring your knees down or shift forward slightly and lower down, and we'll all come onto our bellies. So coming all the way down, rolling over your toes. Let's draw the shoulders back, hug your elbows in. Inhale, cobra. Heart lifts, shoulders draw back. Let's roll through a few of these. So exhale, roll down, let your forehead lightly touch the floor. Then inhale, shoulders draw back, let your heart lift. Exhale, heart reaches forward as you roll down. And one more, inhale. Exhale. Inhale, push up table pose. And then find a child's pose, bringing knees out wide, big toes together, hips toward or to your heels. Feel free to give your arms a break here, bringing arms around the outside of your legs, letting your shoulders slump forward and one of your cheeks come down to the floor. Use each exhale to invite a little more softening and relaxation. And if you have one cheek down, turn your other cheek down. Take your time to gaze forward, reach your arms forward, and come back up. And you can stay in table pose for 5 breaths or find downward dog for 5 breaths. At the bottom of your next exhale, make your way up to the front of your mat, and we'll meet there in a flat back. Feet hips width distance. Inhale to lengthen your spine. Exhale, fold forward. Soften your knees, gaze forward, flipping your palms over. Use your inhale to rise with a flat back. Palms meet overhead. And let's exhale, trace your midline, let your shoulders relax. Another long breath here, and feel free to take a deep sigh, just releasing some heat and any stagnant energy with a big sigh out. From here, I'll invite you into a warrior one pose. I'm gonna switch sides actually. So we're gonna use our left foot forward first. And you can have any distance between your legs. You just want them to be a little bit offset, your feet. So you don't want your feet in one line here because you'll be tipping all over the place. So step your feet apart a little bit. Your right toes, your back foot is at an angle up to the right. And your left toes point forward. Let your front knee bend, hands to your hips. You can work your hips a little more towards square if that's available to you. But let's all focus on keeping our back leg straight and strong. I will make a note here that if you have any kind of knee injuries where having your foot in this position is unsafe, you can come up onto the ball of your foot and toes and just square your hips there in that high lunge instead. Very similar to warrior one. So feel free to do either one. Let's start to sweep your arms up, biceps beside your ears. And then really engage your core and start to reach your heart forward. So we're gonna find a slight diagonal with the upper body, allowing your low back to lengthen. Perhaps your tailbone starts to just subtly move in the direction of curling under. So it's not actually gonna curl under, but bring that intention so you can lengthen through your low back. You can either stay here or keep that length in your back as you come back up into a tall spine. Take another inhale, the arms lifted. Exhale, sweep your arms out to the sides and bring your hands behind you. So 2 choices here. We'll fold forward in a moment, but you can either hold opposite forearms or elbows, or once again, interlace your fingers, draw your shoulders together on your back. So just kind of keeping this theme going of really stretching our shoulders and neck out. So either holding elbows or holding hands. Let's inhale, lift your heart, reach your elbows or your fist down behind you. And as you exhale, keep your belly strong as you hinge forward. And you can fold either above that left thigh or maybe to the inside of that left thigh, letting your head come down and your arms continue to lift overhead. Let your jaw relax. If your head's hanging heavy here, you can just find a little nod and shake, let your neck go. Let's start to bring your hands or elbows back toward your back. If your hands are interlaced, you can release them. Actually, let's all gently release our hands. Bring your hands down to the floor, just tending your fingers. And then start to press down into your feet. And we'll use an inhale to rise with a flat back all the way back up to warrior one. Exhale here. Feel the strength and power in your legs. Let your hands release down to hips and make your way up to the front of the mat. So you can feel free to shake your legs out here, shake your arms out. If you had your arms overhead, that's a really deep stretch in your shoulders. So a little wiggle can feel pretty good after that. And then you'll just make your way into warrior one on the other side in your own time. So the right foot forward, working those hips towards squaring, bending into your front knee, but keeping your back leg really engaged and straight. So your left toes are at a little bit of that angle up to the left. Hands can stay on your hips, or you might start to reach the arms up, palms turn toward each other, broad across your shoulders. And let's engage the belly here and just hinge forward at a diagonal. So reach your heart forward, keeping your spine long, and invite your low back to lengthen a little bit. You can stay there or keep that length in your back and that strength in your belly as you lift back up into a tall spine. Using your next exhale, flip your palms and part the air. Hands come behind you, either hold opposite elbows again. If you interlace your fingers, bring the other thumb on top. So you're interlacing in the weird way. And then draw your shoulders more together. Lift your heart, send your fist down toward the floor. As you exhale, hinge at your hips, folding either to hover above your right thigh, or if it's available, folding to the inside of that right thigh. As your head can drop down, your arms can lift up and overhead any amount. Let your hands or elbows release back to your low back. And then hands come down to frame your front foot. Really feel your feet on the floor. You're going to press down into your feet as you inhale back up into warrior one. Just nice and slow. Exhaling here, firing up your legs. Use your next exhale to float your hands all the way down. Pop up onto that back heel and step back. So finding either a plank or your knee plank, and you can move through the vinyasa of your choice here. So that might be lowering all the way and coming up into cobra, or lowering halfway and coming up into upward facing dog with your thighs off the mat. You can rest back in either down dog, table, or child's pose for 5 more breaths. Use your exhale to bring your knees down if you're in down dog. Untuck your toes. Make your way around to seated. And if you want a blanket under you again, you can bring that underneath you. From seated, I'll invite you to find a wide-legged stance here. And it really doesn't matter how wide your feet are from each other. You just want your feet flexed, drawing those toes back a little bit toward the wall behind you, helping your thighs externally rotate. If you're on a blanket, then scoot yourself all the way to the edge of the blanket. That'll help your hips, your pelvis start to tilt forward a little bit. So we're not rounding and dumping in our low back here. Instead, we have that lift up and out of our low backs. Engage your belly. Inhale, arms reach up. So flex your feet, start to engage your legs. Keep your arms lifted. And if you want, move your gaze toward the ceiling. Let's find one more big breath in. As you exhale, you start to side bend to your left. So letting that left arm come down the rest on or to the inside of your left leg as your right arm reaches up and over. If your left arm is resting on the inside of your leg, use it to press your leg away from you a little bit, spinning your heart more toward the ceiling or at least more toward the front of your mat. Engaging your belly. Inhale, reach that right hand back up and then the left hand to follow. Spend 2 breaths here. You might be noticing some heat building from keeping the arms lifted. And then at your own pace, we'll come down to that other side. Right arm on top of or inside of right leg as your left arm reaches up and over. Spinning your heart toward the front of the room or even a little toward the ceiling if that's available. Engaging your belly, let your left arm lift you back up. And then the right arm lifts too. The palms meet. Exhale, hands to center. From here, let's join the soles of the feet together. So you can take your hands under your knees and just lift. Let your feet come together. And it doesn't really matter how far away from your seat your feet are. Just find what feels right for you today. I have a few different versions of this pose and just kind of feel into your own hips as far as how close you'd like those heels to be to your lap. Let's start holding on to the shins or the ankles or even your feet if they're within reach, sitting up tall. And if you'd like here, you can start to reach your heart forward. So we're really not rounding our backs much, reaching heart forward over the feet or toward the feet. Your elbows might gently press into your inner thighs, helping to spin them outward and anchor them. You can feel free to keep your hands holding onto your feet or legs, or you might start to walk your hands forward. As you inhale, gently rise back to seated. Take your knees together using your hands. I'm going to turn sideways, but I'll invite you to extend your right leg forward. Bend your left knee out to the side and try to bring the sole of your left foot to land somewhere on the inside of your right thigh. So we're facing our right leg here, sitting up tall. Inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, draw belly in as you hinge at your hips. Hands come down either to a strap or a scarf wrapped around your foot, or they can land on your leg, or hold on to your foot if it's within reach. As you're folding forward, let's continue to think about lengthening through your spine. A little rounding is natural and is okay, but we have the intention of letting the heart reach forward so that eventually the crown of your head might touch your foot. Or not, maybe not in this lifetime, but we're just moving in that direction. Use your inhale to start to come back up to a neutral spine. And I'm going to offer an optional pose here. Some of you have probably done with me before. It's a little tricky, so you might watch me first if you haven't been here. I'm going to bring your left hand behind you onto the mat, not your blanket. So left hand comes behind you. Now you're going to end up lifting your hips and you're going to end up on this left shin, hips lift, and try to plant your right foot down. So right toes, the whole foot can come down. Then you'll reach your right arm up and overhead. So pressing those hips forward or up, reaching the right arm up and back. And you can, of course, find a little back bend here, if that's okay. Deep, long breaths. As you exhale, come out just as you went in, letting the hips gently lower as your arm sweeps back down. Great. Let's do our other side. So the left leg extends forward. Bending the right knee, bring the sole of your right foot onto your left thigh. Starting out with a tall spine, inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, belly draws in. Let's find that forward fold of your choosing, hands to leg, a strap, or your foot. Breathing to lengthen your spine. Using your in-breath, rise back to seated. And you can just stay here letting that fold integrate. Or if you want to, find that back bend, bring your right hand behind you, behind your shoulder. As your hips lift, your right knee comes down and your left foot plants. So you can just hang out here before you go into the full back bend. You want to find some stability. So you're really standing on your knee and pressing the back foot down. Then the left arm can sweep overhead. So you can start off kind of in a side plank, or you can find more of a back bend, letting that heart really reach up and back as you gaze behind you, pressing your hips up toward the ceiling. Use an exhale to come out just as you went in. Gently releasing back down. Now let's send both legs forward. Scoot your way up toward the front of your mat. Moving any props out of the way. Keeping your knees bent, reach your arms forward. And start to gently roll down your spine. So you can challenge yourself to take 5 or 10 breaths if you want a little core work at the end of your practice. Drawing your navel in, rounding your back, trying to keep those feet planted. They might want to come up a little bit, and that's okay. When you get all the way down onto your back, just bend your knees and draw your knees up into the air and take your hands around the front of your shins. And then draw your knees out wide. Find a rocking motion, massaging across the top of your glutes and the back of your hips. Relaxing your jaw. You can let your head rock side to side as your hips rock. If you'd like to find a happy baby pose, soles of your feet face the ceiling with your knees bent out beside you. Reach up for inside or outside of your feet with both hands, and then draw your knees down and out to the sides of your body. So we're really getting a nice big hip opener. And you can, of course, find movement here as well, either rocking or keeping one knee bent and starting to straighten the other knee. And then switching sides, of course. Maybe both legs go straight. So I'll draw our knees into our chest. Wrap your arms around your shins. Give yourself a big hug. And send yourself a lot of gratitude for all your effort today. And then find your way into the resting pose of your choice. So you can bring a blanket underneath your knees or over your body, or you might just lie flat on your mat. Wherever you are in your resting pose today, I invite you to take up a lot of space. So can you invite your body just to take up as much space as it might want here? Maybe the legs go out a little wider than the edges of your mat. Perhaps your arms reach a little further out from your body than they usually do. Walk your shoulders away from your ears. Let your neck be long. And reach your heels forward, lengthening your legs out of your hip joints a little more. And just notice how it is for your body to take up all the space that it wants right now. You can let your eyes close or your gaze soften at the ceiling. And I invite you to find a deep sigh to release any controlled breath practice that you've been working with. So just a long breath in, feeling your belly, ribs, and chest expand. Open your mouth. And then just let your body breathe itself for these next few minutes of rest. Lightly touch your awareness back to your breath. Notice all the places where your body is supported by the floor. In your own time, begin to wiggle your toes. Run your thumbs across your fingertips. Circle your wrists and your ankles. Unhinge your jaw and let your head rock side to side. And slowly begin to roll yourself over onto either side. Draw your knees closer in toward your chest. Let your head rest on a block or your upper arm on the floor. Continuing to move slowly, press yourself up and find any comfortable seated position, using any pillows or blankets that you like to be comfortable. Sit up tall in your spine, stacking your shoulders above your hips, letting your heart lift. We'll end with a final inhale, sweeping arms out and up. Lengthen through the sides of your body. Exhale, draw your hands to heart center and let your chin lower, gazing to your fingertips. And I appreciate all of you so much for joining in this afternoon. And the light in me honors the light in each one of you. Namaste.